Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Coach Clarence is an entrepreneur, financial expert, and passionate about helping people build and market their business. He has a creative flair for thinking outside the box and is always looking for the positive side of life. Now, here's Coach Clarence.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner. And today my guest is Stephen Box. He is a board-certified health and wellness coach. And as always, I like to find people that have a good story. A lot of people have lost weight, but this young man has lost a ton of weight. And I wanted him to share his story, what he's learned from it, so that you, the listener, might be in the same situation. You can gain from it. So, Stephen, welcome. And tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So as you mentioned, I am a board certified health and wellness coach, but that is a long time in the making, right? Because about 13 years ago, that was not the situation. 13 years ago, I was about 250 pounds and I'm only 5'7". So, unfortunately, at some point in life, we start going outward and we start going upward. And I went really far outward. So I was pre-diabetic, but I think the hardest part, honestly, for me in all of that was I grew up always very active, always playing sports, always being outside. And like most guys, got into college, started working, my movement went down, my activity levels went down, my nutrition probably actually got worse. And so it was just this struggle of man, I don't have that identity I used to have. I'm no longer that active, fit guy that I always had been. And so that was really a struggle for me. It didn't help that I also at the time was working in retail management, which I absolutely hated. So I'm stuck in a job I don't like. I am not happy with my body. My confidence is down and I no longer feel like the person I once was. And so for me, that really was the turning point in my story.
I see. So losing the weight, what did you go to a doctor? Did you have some event where you were like, okay, I can't keep living like this? What was that moment like?
Yeah, I don't know if there was really a specific moment. The way I kind of describe it, and I see this with a lot of my clients as well, is it's this culmination of things. And sometimes it's a seemingly small moment that seems to kind of, be the backbreaker, so to speak. So for me, I think that moment where I was like, you know what, I just have to do something here came when I was working, like I said, in retail management. And I came in on a Monday and I was reviewing the security footage from the week before. And I forgot that on Saturday, when I was off, that I had stopped by the store and I saw myself on camera. But here's the funny thing. I didn't recognize myself. I actually had taken my phone out of my pocket and was about to call my assistant manager and curse them out for allowing some strange guy behind our counter. So for me, that was that final moment, but it really was the way my clothes fit, having to take stuff on, put it off, in the mornings because I didn't really like the way it looked, or having to wear baggy clothes to try to hide my fat rolls. It was my knees hurting. It was, like I said, not being able to feel like I could do the things I did when I was younger, not being able to be active, not feeling attractive for my wife. All of those things were these little small cuts, right? So it was like death by 1,000 cuts, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that moment, I think, was really where it was finally enough cuts that I was just like, I got to do something about this, man. This is ridiculous.
Gotcha. Listen, I'm a coach. You're a coach. There's thousands of coaches. Everybody has a different philosophy. As we know, the riches are in the niches. Who's your ideal avatar, person that you speak to?
Yeah, I mean, I work with men of all different ages, but I think if I were to pick one that I particularly like working with, it's guys who are either coming up on 40 or they've kind of hit that midlife, that 40s, 50s, maybe even up to about 60ish range, where they still feel like they're young enough to do something about it, but there's been years of neglect. There's, feeling like it's a lost cause. Because what I find is that for those guys, when I can introduce them to my idea of connected health and how we can actually try to make this change simpler, not more complex, it is just such a change for them. And when they're able to get control of their health back, we're not talking about six-pack abs and stuff like that. I mean, you can get that if you want it, right? But that's not really what the purpose is. The purpose is to give you energy and vitality in your life. And when
Right.
you give them that back, they're like, I didn't think I could ever have this again. And that's what I love more than anything else, is giving people that transformation.
Yeah. So what I've noticed that men, as I deal with men over 50 and women, what I've noticed is when they start getting in better shape, their confidence goes up, other aspects of their life change and get better. What are some things you're seeing with men who get in your program and they started feeling and looking better?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was for me too, right? When I went through it, I can honestly sit here and tell you that I didn't realize how much confidence I lost until I got it back, right?
Yeah.
But I teach this idea of connected health, which looks at your physical health, but it also looks at mental health, emotional health, relationships, your environmental health, and your sense of purpose. And what I find is for a lot of guys, when they start getting back in shape, it improves their mental health. It fixes their emotional health, and it fixes it, but helps their emotional health. It improves their relationships. Right now, all of a sudden, they find themselves in more supportive environments because they seek out environments that actually are more aligned with what they want their life to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, that extra confidence, that extra energy, all those things allows them to start living in their purpose. So it literally changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the confidence alone just makes people better, period. So, obviously this will be on the internet. It'll be on my podcast and all over the internet. There's all kinds of information there about weight loss. What are some myths you can break and bust right now so the listeners can know, hey, it isn't what you're hearing? What are the steps that people need to take to achieve long lasting weight loss?
And is this like a 7 hour long show? Because I mean,
No.
I
I
mean,
hope you hit a few points and then we just
yeah,
move on.
yeah, because man, I mean, 90% of what's out there on weight loss is absolute garbage, or at the very
100%.
least, not meant for the people who are trying to utilize it, right? Because
Sure.
a lot of stuff is like more advanced level type stuff, and
Mhm.
most people don't need that. I tell people all the time, man, when I first went to go lose my weight, one of my main goals wasn't even necessarily to lose weight. It was to prove that it could be done without giving up my favorite foods, because I'm a very stubborn, hard-headed person, and I just wanted to prove that it could be done, because I was like, I don't want to eat grilled chicken and broccoli every day. That sounds horrible. I don't want to live that life. And
Mhm.
so the first 40 pounds that I lost, because I lost 80 pounds total, the first 40 pounds I lost, I was still eating fast food every single day, like at least 5 days a week, sometimes 1, 2 meals per day. And
Yeah.
like, well, how are you doing that? Well, it's because I went from, say, getting a double cheeseburger and a like extra large fry to getting a single cheeseburger and a large fry and then a medium fry, right? So it was like this slow process. It just only took me like 10 months to lose 80 pounds, which I mean, is pretty, quick. So I think the main thing I would tell people is this idea that we have to go on these super hardcore all in diets, or that we have to go do all these like super hard workouts. You don't have to do that stuff. It's really about the smaller changes that can really have a big impact, and they're more sustainable. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of people talk about like HIT training, for example. And look, HIT training is great. I love it. I utilize it in my programs and everything like that. But it's not for everybody, and it can
Sure.
easily be overdone. If you go do HIT 4 days a week, you're going to overdo it. Like HIT
Right.
is meant to be done 1, 2 times maximum.
Yeah.
So it's this hard mentality. This is especially targeted towards men, of we need to make things difficult because that's more manly. No, manly is showing up and being consistent.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Yeah. That's funny you say that because people think you go from being completely sedentary, not doing anything, And now you're going to come to the gym and, like you said, do hits 7 days a week, or you're watching your favorite influencer do something he filmed in 20 minutes and made 8 reels out of it. And you're thinking, I'm going to go knock that out. And that's when people actually fall off, because they go, I tried the fitness thing and I just couldn't do it. It was just because whoever's coaching them is not walking them through. This is a process. You didn't gain that weight over, just like you probably didn't gain that weight. Like you said, you didn't recognize yourself in the mirror. I've actually done that when I'm 53. So there are times in my life where I've been super lean. And then there's times I'm like, and it's funny, to the store, a mirror, and you go, wait a minute, I have lost it. What is going on? Talk to me, because right now, obviously, we're in stressful times. We potentially might be going to war. People are dealing with politics, job loss, everything. How are some ways you're coaching your clients to manage that stress?
Yeah. So one of the big things that I do with everybody is we start with a vision of what they want their life to look like. And I'm not talking about, how much money you want to make or how much, you want to weigh or anything like that. When I talk to people about their vision, it's about their behaviors, because our behaviors are what we can control. And one of the exercises that we do is, as people are creating this vision for themselves, is we go with what's called a sphere of influence. And this starts literally with yourself and then expands out what's in your immediate area, what's in the room that you're in, what's in your house, what's, in your neighborhood, what's in your city, what's, like going all the way out. You can go out to outer space if you want, right? You can go as far as you want. And then what we do is, within each of those environments, because remember, environmental health is one of our areas of connected health. Within each of those environments, you assign one of 3 categories to everything around you: total control, some control, zero control. And I constantly get my clients to go through this exercise. Even like once we've done it the first time, we will constantly revisit, because the reminder to them is that the only thing we have total control over is our thoughts and the way we react to things. That's it. Everything else, our personal behaviors, are the only thing we truly have total control over. Everything else, we have some control or no control. Yeah. And once you start to accept that you don't have control over things, you can stop worrying so much about them and control what you can control.
That makes sense. Talk a little bit about how you set up the environment to give people tips to create the environment where they can have this type of, for lack of a better word, vibe going, where they can thrive in your coaching. What are some things they can do?
Yeah, I think this differs for every single person, but I'll give you like a simple example of what this can look like. We'll use exercise. If I want to remind myself that I'm supposed to exercise, if I put a kettlebell right next to my desk, so that when I get up in the morning, I come to my computer, the first thing I see is my kettlebell, boom, mental connection. I need to go work out.
Yeah.
I need to go get my exercise in, right? Or if every single day I have my workout shoes sitting by the front door on my way out to work. I mean, I work from home, but if you work from the office, if you got your workout shoes there, reminder, take my workout clothes with me so that I can stop by the gym after work.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Or one of the things I do with my clients is I have them pack an extra workout bag that they sit in their trunk, or if they got an extra row in their SUV, I go, just put a pair of shoes that are beat up, a pair of shorts, something you can work in, a good top. And that way, because you'll get that, hey, I'm on my way to the gym and I forgot my stuff. Now we've eliminated that, and I like that you said kettlebell. There's all kinds of things you can do. Set water by your desk. I mean, the list goes on. And I appreciate you saying that, because it's funny how me and you were talking about weight loss and we're not talking about exercising. I was on another gentleman's podcast this morning, and he said, what do you talk about when you talk about coaches? You guys come up with ideas about how to work out? I go, no, we talk about more mindset, how to do things. And Now, don't get me wrong. There are people who are good at strength training and building muscle or training athletes. That's a whole different conversation, but that's not the general public.
Yeah.
So, what are some accountability tools that you use with your clients?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things we do, and this depends really on the individual client. I do customize this for each person that I work with. For some people, they really need high accountability. And so I have an app where they literally would check in every single day and mark off what they're doing. And if they miss days or they're not doing things, I'm reaching out to them going, hey, what's going on? Do you need any help? Where are we at? Because they need high level accountability.
Mhm.
Other people, they don't really need high level accountability. So maybe we just do a coaching call once a week or once every other week.
Sure.
That's good enough for them. And I have some people that just know that by simply paying me, that's enough motivation for them. Like literally, I've had people tell me, I literally have hired you because I know that there's an accountability to it.
Yeah.
And so it really does vary by each person. And I like to customize it for each client.
Hmm. I love that. Uh, people do have different ways. Some people say, I'm paying you and I feel bad if I don't show up. I've kind of moved out of the space of in person. I have like one client left that I see a couple days a week, but I'm completely online now. So it's different. Now I'm kind of like you, I'm checking in, getting their accountability, their weekly sheets and stuff like that. Um, what are some actionable tips to someone who's listening to this is kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you will, and they're sitting on the couch, they're having this moment in their head like you did, and they're going, where do I start? What's some good advice you can give somebody who's just going, I need to do something, but where do I start? It's overwhelming.
Yeah, this is my somewhat vague but somewhat specific advice that I can give people here. And I leave it somewhat vague only because this will vary by individual and exactly what this means. But I believe so strongly in good systems. I remember I read the book The E Myth Revisited many, many, many years ago. I'm 45 now. So
Okay.
this was like probably 20 years ago that I read this book. But ever since I read it, it just sold me on this idea of systems. And what I've learned about systems is rigid systems work great in, say, like a restaurant, but they don't work well for achieving goals. So the trick to making systems work for you is to create rigid systems that have flexibility built into them. So what I mean by that is I'll just, for continuity purposes here, I'll just kind of stick to the exercise example. If I say I'm going to work out for an hour every day, well, if my system says I work out every day immediately after I have my morning caffeine, then the first time that something else comes up, work calls, I got an email, something happens to the kids, whatever, and that pattern gets interrupted, I now do not know when I'm going to work out. And I probably won't work out because my system got thrown off.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if I have contingency plans, I'm like, this is when I work out. But if for some reason, if I don't get to work out, then this is my backup. And if that doesn't work, this is my backup. And I've never gotten past my third backup. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say you have to build flexibility into the program. It's still a system. It's still rigid to say these are the 3 opportunities I have to work out in a day. But I'm not just saying it's this or nothing.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I'm hearing a lot of systems which complies with commitment. One of the things people say a lot is I struggle with motivation.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to people who say that? Because they think every day, I mean, you work out. I mean, realistically, you've been working out for a while. You probably don't want to work out some days. They think if you're into fitness or you're a coach that every day you're like, oh yeah. And it's just not realistic. So what do you say to people who say, hey, I'm just not motivated?
I tell people, me either. I I don't, I don't even like getting up to go work out most days, right? Like honestly. You know, I probably drag myself into the gym more days than I don't. But
Yeah.
what it is for me, it's about being connected to something bigger, right? It's not going back to this idea of connected health. Part of that is having a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's like for me, knowing that the frustration for me when I was overweight was not being that active person that I wanted to be. It set me up to have this vision in my life of even as I age, I want to always be active. I don't want to wake up and be sore. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to be unhappy with the way my body feels and looks and moves.
Yeah.
So I don't exercise because it's fun. I exercise because it makes me stronger. I exercise because it keeps my body running efficiently. I exercise because it keeps me young. And
Yeah.
that's my motivation. People think that you need to be motivated to go do something. No, you need to do something in order to get motivated.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. How many certifications do you hold? What's your education as far as fitness?
How many certifications do I hold? Let me count the ways. let's see. I got to literally pull up my own list here. That's how many I have.
I asked because in the old days it would be you had a master's degree or exercise science degree, and there are a lot of trainers now who haven't done the traditional route,
Yeah.
and they got motivated and went and got a certification. And that's why I was asking you. And which one do you think has made the most impact on your life?
Yeah, so for me, I'll kind of give you a little bit of a story here. So when I first started losing my weight, I actually went and hired a trainer at a big box gym, and I actually went through about 6 of them for various reasons. Some of them just quit. Some of them I just didn't vibe with, whatever. So I ended up working with about 6 different trainers. And I was going to just give up completely. And I was just like, you know what? I'll just stay fat forever. It's fine, whatever. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
And so I went to go cancel, and they told me, you've accumulated 72 30-minute sessions, and you're going to lose them, and you're not going to get any of the money back if you cancel your gym membership. So I said, you know what? Give me 2 trainers. I'm going to train back-to-back sessions. I'm going to do 1-hour sessions. I'm going to knock these out as fast as I can, just so that I don't throw the money away.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to cancel my membership. That was literally the plan. I wasn't even doing it to get in shape anymore. I was literally just doing it to say I didn't waste the money, which I mean, it still would have been a waste of the money if I didn't get the results, but I didn't see it that way at the time. Right.
Yeah.
So I started working with these 2 trainers, and one of them, um, very like serious, like Navy SEAL kind of guy. And one day he said something to somebody that was walking by, like kind of made a joke. And I don't know what made me say it, but I was just like, oh, so you do have a personality. And for whatever reason, like me and him really hit it off after that. And he started really sharing with me like what we were doing and why we were doing it and all this stuff. And it just ignited this passion for me in fitness. And because, like I told you earlier, I hated my job at the time. The only thing I liked about it was coaching people. So all
Mhm.
of a sudden, I saw there was this opportunity, and I wanted to start. So I actually got certified as a personal trainer in 2011,
Yeah.
and then I started coaching people. But I felt like, hey, you know what? I'm not getting people enough results. I want to get better results for people. So I actually got certified through Precision Nutrition in 2015 at my PN1 certification. And then a couple of years later, I actually got certified as an online trainer. I was still coaching in person. And then I took Precision Nutrition has a level 2 course that's
Yes.
really about becoming a better coach. It's really more like a behavior change certification.
Mhm.
So I took that in 2018. And that honestly probably was the most impactful that I had taken, because it really helped me start understanding more the deeper philosophy of coaching. And then I went on to end up getting my ISSA transformation specialist and nutrition certifications through them to become an ISSA elite trainer.
Mhm.
And then 2 years ago, 2021, I actually also got certified as a sleep, stress management, and recovery coach. Um,
Okay.
and then just last year, I actually set for the boards and became the National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach.
Nice. All right. So you obviously have most of the bases covered, and education is important. But sometimes I think too, just you being good at connecting with other people's pain takes you a long way, and that's huge.
Yeah.
What are some of the obstacles you feel like people face when they start to make these significant changes?
Well, I think the biggest obstacle that most of us face is we don't really stop to consider what it is we're letting go. Because if you really stop and think about it, all behaviors are just an attempt to solve a problem or an expression of who we are. That's it. That's the only two reasons we have behavior. And so when you start thinking about all of your quote unquote bad habits, what you're really looking at is a series of behaviors that are solving a problem for you. So if I get someone who they feel like, hey, maybe I'm drinking a little bit too much, but why are you drinking? Well, you're drinking to deal with the stress of your day.
Yeah.
So if I just take away alcohol and now I leave you with no solution to your stress, what happens?
I'm going to go back to the alcohol.
Yeah, you're either going to go back to the alcohol or you're going to go to something else.
Sure.
It's going to be a different fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to address the underlying issue. And most people, when they try to go through a change, what they do is they go, okay, what's the best diet? What's the best workout plan? And they try to go and do these things that, like I said earlier, are really like, if we were to put all the important stuff like in a little pyramid of what you should be doing, they're doing the stuff at the very top level and they haven't established the base level stuff yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination of trying to do too much, and it's also a matter of not really understanding what it is that we're trying to change. You can't just substitute a bunch of habits in, because even if you manage to stick with them for a few weeks or a few months and get results, you're just going to go right back to your old habits, and your old habits got you your previous results. So guess what's going to happen?
Yeah. And slide back into those old habits, and then it just becomes a cycle of starting and stopping, starting and stopping.
Yeah.
You know?
And look, I did that for years before I got it figured out. So no judgment.
And that's what people need to hear. They need to hear you, because they see the finished result. They don't see what you went through to get there. Yeah. So as far as you lost 80 pounds, do you have any more goals in terms of fitness? Do you want to do anything that's, and I'm doing air quotes, related to fitness?
So when I first lost the weight, I decided that I was going to do a 5K.
Okay.
That was my only run. I've retired.
So you did do it.
I did do it.
How was that?
It was horrible. That's
on your body, or was it horrible? I'm
not a runner. I am a sprinter.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm a sprinter. I have sprinting muscles. That's what I have. I learned that because I set two goals. One was to run the entire time. The second was to finish in under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And all I remember from that race, I did run the entire time, by the way. But what I remember from that race was coming up on the finish line, and all I could see was a 29 for the minutes.
Yeah.
It did this all out sprint to get in under 30 minutes. And I did it. But then I remember sitting on the ground afterwards, like feeling like I was going to die. So yeah, so I don't run anymore. If you're a runner, more power to you. Not for me. I'll stick with like my heavy bag and stuff like that for cardio, right?
Yeah.
But no, like I'm at a point now where I don't even care about achieving a specific thing like that. For me, it really is about wanting my body to feel good. So I've actually started to incorporate a lot more stuff like flexibility and balance training into my routines, because for me, my health goal at this point is just to keep my body healthy. I want to be one of those like 100-year-old people that are still out there doing stuff. That's what I want to be. That's my goal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I like to do the FORD acronym. The FORD acronym is family, occupation, recreation, and dream. So we already know what your occupation is. Tell me a little bit about your family. Do you have a family?
Yeah,
And when you think about, obviously you have a family, immediate, like, are you married? What's your personal stuff about? People buy personality as well.
yeah. So it's just me and my wife. We've been together for we'll just say forever since 1997. What is the math on that?
Jeez, that's been a while.
Yeah. So what was that? 23, 26 years. So there you go. But yeah, so we've been together for a while. Just, we kind of decided early on that we didn't have kids or whatever. And
Okay.
so it's just the two of us, but I also like grew up with a lot of friends that were always around. I was an only child, so I grew up
Okay.
with a lot of friends and stuff around, and I consider a lot of them family. So I have a lot of really close friendships that are almost like family to me. It's just my mom now. My dad actually passed away when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
So, pretty small family footprint, but, a good sized group of people that I really consider to be family.
Excellent. Yeah. And so, do you do this solely, or do you have something else you do?
So I do this solely professionally, but I do other stuff for fun.
Okay.
So I actually have a sports podcast that
Nice.
me and a friend co-host that we've been doing for it'd be actually 4 years this month.
Say what it is so people can find it. They want to listen to it. What is it
Uh,
called?
it's called Play Caller Sports.
Now, you dealing with any sports in general or a specific sport?
We mostly talk football and basketball.
Ah,
So
pro or
we actually,
college?
both.
Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
men's and women's on the college
Okay.
stuff too.
I
But yeah,
always wanted to do that. I mean, I have so many friends that think they're experts, and which really, when you're hosting a sports show, you're just giving your opinion. I mean, but it can be entertaining if you have two people with different views on the same subject. Um, okay, so recreation, when you're not doing your podcast and coaching clients, what do you like to do for fun?
yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of a weird thing to say this, but I almost end up doing a lot of the same stuff. It's just a matter of the what I'm doing with it, if this makes sense. Because say for example, I do a lot of the graphic work and things like that for my business, but I just enjoy like creating graphics or editing video and things like that. So I would just do that stuff when I'm not working, except for I'm just not doing it for work. Like I'm just basically just being creative in those moments. I
Sure.
love like playing sports. Like I said, I do the other podcasts, the sports podcast stuff. I actually like doing things like playing pool. um, I don't get as much time to do this as I like anymore, but I still enjoy sitting down and just like playing video games and things like that. So I don't care that I'm 45. I'm gonna keep playing games because I already told you guys I'm trying to stay young.
Everything is a game, man. If you think about it from that
Yeah,
level, you're trying to win it. You don't want to be known as losing everything.
yeah.
So, what are your dreams personally and professionally? That's the D in the forward.
Yeah, like I said, for me on a professional level, it really comes down to I want to help transform where we are as men in society. I feel like we are at a crossroads right now as men. I grew up Gen X. I don't know if you're Gen X or the generation before me. We're pretty close in age, uh, but we grew up at a time where things are so much different for us as men than what they are now.
Yes.
And I feel like there's this push to change a lot about masculinity, and some of that change is positive, but some of it is also kind of stripping away who we are as men.
Mhm.
And, I want to be a part of the conversation of balancing that back out and helping us go, hey, you know what? Yeah, these are some of the things about being men that maybe we should change, that we can let go of some of these things. But let's also make sure we're keeping the things that are positive, right? Because I believe that when men can embrace their masculinity, that when we can actually start to prioritize our physical and mental well-being, when we stop getting this idea that we're supposed to just sacrifice ourselves and that we actually start taking care of ourselves so we can actually be the providers and the protectors we desire to be, all of a sudden we're better husbands, we're better fathers, we're better leaders in our communities, at work, at our homes. And when we get to be that, the world is a better place. So that's really professionally what my vision is to be a part of that conversation and help to, start to create that change.
Love it. I love it. All right. So, Stephen, tell me and tell the audience where they can find you if they want to listen to your podcast, maybe get some coaching from you.
Yeah, the best place to get me is on my website, unshakablehabits.com. People can go on, they can book a free consultation call with me. It's called a roadmap call, and I'll help them get some clarity on what the next steps might look like for them. And they can decide whether I'm a good fit for them or not. There's also links to the podcast on there, as well as all of my social media links.
I love it. Actually, I want to tell you that I love the name of your business, Unshakable Habits. That's great. Is that the name of the business or just the website?
No, that's the name of the business, and I'll just share with you very quickly where that came from. When I told you earlier how I started coaching people on fitness, and then say, this isn't enough, and got nutrition involved, and then I was like, that's still not enough. And I started getting behavior change, and I was, well, that's still not enough. And then I got sleep and stress management and all that. And what I started to figure out was I could give people the tools to be successful on something. And when life wasn't crazy, they could knock it out of the park. But as soon as things started getting crazy for people, didn't matter what tools I gave them, didn't matter what strategies I gave them, things would always fall apart on them. And I decided that what I wanted to do is help people create not just habits, but unshakable habits, meaning habits that even when life gets crazy, they stick.
Love it. Love it. All right, my man. Well, I appreciate you coming by, spending a few minutes with us, sharing your story. I love that you're out inspiring people. That's important. And I love the backstory. That's always makes for a good conversation. So thank you for your time, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.